What do I do when the buyers come through wanting so many things after their inspections? I've already put so much money in the house. What do these people think I am? Made of gold? And I'm like, okay, everybody take a deep breath. It's going to be okay. We're in the middle of a home sale, and depending on the market, your buyers might have some leverage, or you might have some leverage, or you might just decide to go with a win-win or no deal type of approach. What I would tell you though is think about this from the buyer's standpoint. Try to be super rational. When you were buying a house, did you want something fixed? Did you want the furnace to be in ship shape? Did you want the electrical to be totally up to code? Did you want little dumb things like a cracked light switch plate repaired? I bet you didn't, because if you were working with an agent like me, I would have said, no, that's not what we're asking for. We're asking for health and safety related concerns that could actually affect the way you live in the house. Recently, I sold a house that had a faulty electrical mast. Oh, what's an electrical mast, you may ask? I will tell you, not to worry. An electrical mast is when the electrical comes in from the street, it comes in on a big thick wire that is coated in plastic, and it comes to your house. Then it has to attach to something which then feeds down into your house, into your electrical panel, typically in the basement, or if you don't have a basement, on your first floor. If you only have a first floor, then it's definitely on the first floor. And your electrical panel feeds into the house, and then that is sent out all over the house through wiring, of course, to take care of all of the outlets that we use in modern day life. If you're in Cleveland, Ohio, you know that you really can never have enough outlets because we live primarily in older homes that do not have as many outlets as today's life requires. But I digress. The electrical mast then is connected to the house through this tube, right? I just sold a house where the tube of the electrical mast was greatly deteriorated. And that tube, actually the electrical wires were touching the house. That really is a health and safety concern. And at first, the other agent who represented the sellers said, we're not fixing that. And I said, kindly ask the sellers if they would, because after all, it really is a health and safety concern for the buyers to have electrical wires touching the house. Well, guess what? When presented that way, it became evidence that the sellers did indeed need to fix that. Now, flip the cards here. Flip the scenario. I'm working with you as a listing agent. You're selling your house. Maybe you're upgrading. Maybe you're moving out of town. Maybe you're downsizing after everybody's flown the nest. Who knows? But it's time to sell your house, and the buyer has come up with a laundry list of things to repair. What do you say? Instead of getting your paper and going, I'm not taking care of any of this, let's look at it rationally. And let's remember that I'm doing my best to represent you, and typically there will be another agent who's doing their best to represent their client. So when they brought a list of things to repair, they're not trying to insult you. They are doing their very best to get what their client wants and needs in this house. And let me help you think through the repair requests for things that actually make sense. So for instance, if there are electrical repairs, they are probably a code. There's an electrical code. We want those things fixed so that the buyer can sleep well at night knowing that the electrical is in great shape. If there need to be roofing repairs. Yesterday, I had to tell somebody a house without a roof is like a car without tires. What is a car without tires? Not much. It's just a car. It's just a body of a car. And a house without a roof is just not much of a house. So if you have roofing repairs, I want you to take care of those. Now, when we start getting kind of into the let's say there's a slow drip from a faucet, it would be kind of you to repair that. Let's say that your faucet is leaking under the sink, you are going to be repairing that. Let's say that your furnace hasn't been serviced in a few years. Let's take care of that. Your furnace, by the way, should be serviced every 6 months. It's super easy. You just stick it in your calendar and every 6 months call and get on the service plan so that your furnace is in good working order for your buyer. Now let's talk about sidewalk cracks and leveling concrete and things that are kind of exterior. Typically, I'm going to say, if there's tuck pointing, that's the mortar in between the bricks. If there's tuck pointing to take care of, you probably will need to do it. And I know it's annoying and I know it's expensive. Speaking of tuck pointing, my friends, the chimney can often start to crumble. Our climate is rough on chimneys. You do need a chimney cap so that no critters come down the chimney, and it just protects your house. If your chimney needs to be rebuilt, it can be very expensive. I recommend keeping an eye on your chimney as you go so that you don't have a huge surprise when it comes to your buyer inspections. Okay, let's go to our favorite spot, everybody's favorite spot, the basement. The basement is not your favorite spot. Some people are really into basements. That's cool. The basement does not happen to be my favorite spot in the house, but that's okay. There's a couple of things down in the basement that we need to discuss. Number one, we kind of already went over, which was the electrical. Number two, we kind of already talked about, which was the furnace. And number three, what I want to talk about is your sump pump. If you are the lucky owner of a sump pump that pumps water away from your house so that your basement does not flood, the pump itself can go out about every 5 to 7 years. It's just a pump in a bucket in the, dug in the hole. I'm looking down at the floor as if it's they have a hole in the basement. They've dug a hole and they've stuck a pump into the hole, and the pump pumps the water away. Every 5 to 7 years, the pump itself dies. It's okay. You just call a plumber. They come and they repair it. They take it out. They put in a new pump. And that pump will cost you $500 to $700. It is what it is. If the pump isn't working, you gotta replace the pump. Then the other thing that happens in the basement, very often, there's two more basement things. After we're on the sump pump, people can get kind of nervous about foundations. They can get nervous about leakage in corners. I have a repair for leakage in the corners. Make sure you've jetted your downspouts, kept your downspouts super clean throughout the years, because that's another one. Buyers will get crazy when they're full of leaves and then water backs up into your basement. So keep your gutters clean, by the way. It really will keep your basement nice and dry, despite the gutters being up here and the basement being down there. The other thing that goes on in basements that I don't even know what number we're on anymore. The other thing that goes on in basements is radon testing. When the inspector comes in, what they do is they put these tubes in the basement, and you have to keep your doors closed. I mean, you can go in and out, but you shouldn't air out the house per se. And you can keep your air conditioning on, all of that. And they will test for radon in the basement. Radon, if you look at the EPA website, is an odorless, colorless gas that sinks to the basement, and it is the number 2 leading cause of lung cancer. It is serious. I would allow a radon test in my house. I have had radon tested on my house. I encourage my clients to get radon tests. It hasn't come up that often, but every once in a while, somebody has an elevated radon level. And then guess what? It's also relatively easy to take care of. Kind of in the $1,500 department, $2,000 maximum sort of department. They put this big tube in your basement that doesn't jet really, but it airs to the outside. So the air from that tube will flow to the outside, reducing the radon in your basement. If your buyer has come to you with high radon levels, you probably do need to install a radon system in your basement for them. And the radon system has a little monitor, and they'll be able to monitor it and make sure that the radon levels stay low. So there you have it. Oh my gosh, there's something else. Wait a minute. We didn't talk about the moving checklist. I want you to get your moving checklist, because this house, you're moving from this house. I mean, you've sold your house, right? That's why you're going through inspections. So be sure to grab the moving checklist. It's at shoshanasocher.com/checklist. And it will help guide you all the way from here to there on your move. That's shoshanasocher.com/checklist. That's it for now. I have to end this video because I don't know what else to say.